Greetings, people of the interwebs. Jake here, and joining me is one of the newer curators to our fantastic team of curators is Nick181. How are you doing, man?
I'm excellent, Jake. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you getting the time together to do this with me.
No problem. Thanks for expressing interest to be on here, because pretty much since I first pitched this idea to Miss America, however long it was, several months ago, to do the YouTube channel, I wanted to get all the curators on at some point. Which obviously is kind of an arduous task, just because the time zones and all that stuff, and because all of us are super busy with school and jobs or both, and just our own personal lives. But thankfully, it's actually been coming together a lot better here recently. And then of course having help with the channel from Croc, who, by the way, if you all haven't checked out his podcast that he did, the debut podcast, definitely check that out. It was really good.
That was good. I saw that.
Far more professional than I've ever been. But anyways, without further ado, so I guess first question, what made you first decide to become a curator here on Comics Amino?
So I'm very close with the very lovely Miss America, our leader on Comics Amino. She's great. She's always trying to make the app stand to her vision. And she has high standards, and she has the drive to make the app reach its absolute potential. And that's why the app has been doing so well. I mean, we have her to thank, and her her personality and her drive, it really spoke to me after speaking with her and getting to know her. So upon speaking with her for some time and getting to know her vision, she realized that her and I had similar eyes and similar minds, and for the app, I only want the best for it, just like her. And so she reached out to me one day and said, I really like the drive and the passion that you have, and it matches mine, and I'm really hoping that we can get you on board. And I was thrilled to have the opportunity, because I've been a member for a long time on here, and for most of the curators, like Croc, Winterality, Sir Stan, Miss A, Jake, of course you, All-Star, I mean, the list goes on and on. I looked up to you guys, and I saw you guys as the leaders of the app, and the people that make it, the strong community that it is, and help hold it together. No, so, I was thrilled to be a part of that, and
it's good to have you on board.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really do appreciate that. I generally like, talking with you guys, being with you guys, meeting you guys, and working with you guys to, of course, make the app as strong as possible, and keep it standing, and that's what we're doing.
So you've only been a curator for a few months now, correct?
Oh, no, a few weeks.
Or a few weeks, okay. Really? I don't know why I was thinking you've been a curator longer.
Yeah, a few weeks. I'm still kind of learning the ropes a little bit. Watching you guys, learning from you guys, just trying to, figure it out. And, it's been going smoothly. You guys are awesome. I mean, you guys are so helpful. Every time I have, a question or anything, you guys are right there, and you really make the process easy for me, and you really made me feel welcome. And I really can't thank you guys enough for that, especially you, Jake.
No, thank you. We try. So obviously, it's a comic book app. So, how did you first get into comics? Because I've noticed that a lot of people. Or I guess people more around my age, say in their 20s or so, kind of first got into comics through the 90s animated Batman series or the Spider-Man and X-Men series. So was that your kind of first introduction, or were you reading comics from a pretty early age?
You know what? Just to give you the Reader's Digest of it, because it is kind of a long origin story of how I came to be. Basically, I was a huge fan, my brother and I, of the Batman animated series, the X-Men, the Spider-Man animated 90s cartoon. Loved it. We loved it so much. And my mother was actually the one who got me into comics, my brother and I. Yeah, actually, she was a huge fan of Godzilla. Growing up, she was a huge fan of King Kong.
Excellent. I too was a big fan of Godzilla as a kid.
Oh yeah, I love Godzilla. You know, she'd buy me all the monsters. She'd do all that,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, every now and then she'd buy me a little comic here or there. So would my uncle, and you know, one day I was at my grandmother's cave house, and in the mail came issue number 3, a reprint of the Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1.
Oh wow.
And my grandmother handed it to me, and she was like, "Hey, you love, you know, superheroes. You know, like, hey, read this book, kid. Here, shut up for a while." So she handed me the book, and I opened it and I read it, and it was, oh my gosh, it was the issue with Dr. Octopus, and you know, he was holding Spider-Man on the cover, and I was just like so interested in like Dr. Octopus. I was like, wow, that is such a cool villain name. So I read it. And as soon as I closed it, I opened it again and I reread it, and that's when I was hooked, and I still have that issue today.
Oh wow!
I'm 20 years old, and I believe the reprint came out when I was about, I want to say maybe 8 years old, maybe 7 or 8. So you know, it's been a while, and then you know that was pretty much the lead-in into my unhealthy obsession of all things comic related.
Well, I wouldn't say unhealthy. It might be might be a little hard on our wallets every now and then. But again, I've mentioned that's kind of the plight of of comic book readers, is because there literally is this unlimited amount of comics, not just Marvel and DC, although that in of itself is a huge undertaking to one keep up with Marvel and DC titles on like a weekly basis. But then, like, there's so much older stuff from, the 60s, 70s, 40s. And then, of course, there's, indie comics, which, that's kind of my bread and butter right there.
Oh, is it? Cool.
So it's like, it's hard, like, anytime when you go into a comic book shop, because you're just kind of like, there's so many options, I want to read them all. And then you look at your wallet, you're like,
but
okay,
you only have so much money.
Yeah, it's like okay, I've got a $20 bill, or euro or pound.
Yeah,
it's like, how
far can this take me?
Yeah, it's like how far can this take me? Which sadly not far enough. And then
that's the reality of this. Books $4 a piece now if you're lucky.
And with the comic book that I go to, the comic book shop that I go to, there's also they also have a pretty good selection of like pop figures. They've got like a few collectibles, like some of the Marvel Legends toys and DC.
Love Marvel Legends. Yeah.
God, yes.
That's great.
And I don't have a huge selection of like Marvel and DC like toys, but I have a pretty good amount of pop figures.
Okay. Yep.
So that's another thing is like, I'll get like the comics that I want, and I'm kind of like, all right, I did good today. Like I didn't go over budget, and then I'll like in my peripheral vision, I'll see like a pop figure, and I'm kind of like, ooh, you know
it's
what?
Calling your name.
Yeah, it's like
Jake, get over here.
And like sometimes like I'm good at resisting, but then other times like I'll miss an opportunity to get like kind of a rare pop figure.
Because I remember, I never got into those. Honestly, I don't know why.
One part of me wants to say like you're probably better off not doing it, but then the other part of me kind of wants to encourage it because so I don't know, like dude.
I mean, they're huge. I mean, they do so well.
Oh yeah, and again, like I'm not like a avid collector, but every now and then like I'll see like a certain line of pop figures. Yep. Like I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fans. Like when I first saw that.
Okay.
Funko Pop were releasing a Lord of the Rings line, I was kind of like, I gotta have them all.
Yeah.
So
I hear that. I have my little things too. We all do. But yeah, Punk, those pops just I don't know, just never got on that train. Unfortunately, I guess. I mean, everyone I know again is raving about them and loves them, and the industry for those things is huge.
Oh yeah,
they're huge.
And the attention to detail on the pop figures is fantastic too. Which again, like as I would say, an amateur collector, I do like it when like I'll get like a certain toy or something like that, and just notice the amount of detail, because I'm just like, yes, money well spent. But anyways,
that's cool. Yeah, anyway, we can talk about those things.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I guess who are some of your favorite like comic characters or storylines, whether it be Marvel, DC, or whatever? Like, was there one, or are there any particular ones that, like, after you read them, you're like, okay, yes, this is my favorite character. I want to read as much as I can about this character or this storyline.
You know what? I am a huge. I'm mostly Marvel. I'm about 98% Marvel.
Oh, wow.
Just because I feel like those characters spoke to me a lot more than DC, and because to invest in both, I feel like I just couldn't do because I would be so divided.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough money to splurge, unfortunately. Hopefully I can win the lottery or something down the line and I can buy anything I want. But so what I really did was I bought only from Marvel.
So anyways, sorry about that little technical difficulty. But you're saying that you predominantly read Marvel?
Yes, I am definitely a huge Marvel fan. I just decided to definitely try to embrace and engulf myself with Marvel continuity, because doing DC and Marvel, I felt like would just be a little too much to handle in terms of money.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I'm loving it, and I really think, in my opinion, it was a good idea to kind of just go one or the other, because I can really embrace Marvel, and the characters really speak to me in a certain way. That's why I chose to go Marvel and go that path.
That's fair.
Because I like how I just feel like they're more relatable. I hate to say that because I know a lot of DC fans, that's their biggest thing whenever that comes up.
No, I do think that's fair. And I think that's, again, the whole big appeal to characters like Spider-Man or the X-Men is they're as odd as it sounds, like they're a little bit more grounded, so they're a bit more relatable, because the way I've always seen it is most Marvel characters are humans, like they're humans trying to be like gods or something bigger than humans, whereas the DC characters they're more or less gods trying to be more human. That's also kind of the big appeal to DC, is because you're like, Superman, why are you trying to be human when you're all powerful? But again, that's
definitely goes both ways, right?
Yeah,
just like Wonder Woman, Aquaman. I mean, they are gods.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
But that's what makes again Marvel and DC characters so compelling. Is again, like Marvel, they're a lot more relatable, but they're trying to ascend to, again, and most of them are trying to ascend to something greater, whether it be just as simple as like, okay, I have to be the best person that I can be. Not just for myself, but for like my friends and family, and for the city or whatever area they protect. So that's totally fair, and I don't think there's a whole lot of dispute with that. Is that, again, Marvel characters are generally a bit more relatable, because let's be honest.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way. I mean, DC has their thing, Marvel has their thing. I just chose to go Marvel.
Yeah.
One day when I feel that I've kind of grasped everything there is to know about Marvel, I definitely intend to switch to DC, and totally embrace myself with DC for 10 years, 8 years, however long it may be, and just learn their characters and learn their character development, and just embrace it and enjoy it. But as of now, I'm Marvel, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot, and I would, if I could do it all again, I would do the exact same thing.
So, who are your favorite Marvel characters and villains?
I'd say my all-time favorite is the Silver Surfer.
Very nice.
He's someone that he's a character that has so much power, but the one drawback is not that he can't control it, or that he doesn't know how to use it, or that he doesn't. The one thing to me about him was that he was a character that had power and potential, but he was so lonely, and just that just so it resonated with me, the fact that he is just a god, but doesn't have friends for a lot of his career as a hero. He's just someone that wanders and does his own thing and creates his own adventures that way. And to me, that just spoke to me. It spoke to me a lot. And he's such a noble, pure-hearted person too. I like to compare him to Superman a lot, because I feel like Superman is just that pure character and hero that everyone, wants to be. And I feel like the Silver Surfer is that with Marvel.
I've not like really for me, like the extent that I know of Silver Surfer is pretty much from what little I've read of him in the comics, and like with. I think he's usually most associated like with Fantastic Four. I think that's when he first showed up. His appearance
was there.
Yeah,
I think it was issue 48. And yeah, he was the man. Every comic you read with him, he's the man. Yeah. That's just what I like about it. You know what you're gonna get whenever a writer takes him on. Except for Dan Slott's run, which was excellent, and that totally drove the character in a new way. But you always know what you're going to get with the character, which I like. He's reliable. You can count on him, and yeah, he's just always been my favorite. It's just he's just the guy for me.
Yeah, Stan's a lot. I was talking to him actually. I think it was yesterday or the day before that, and he was actually going on like this really long. Pretty much like basically praising Dan Slott's run on Silver Surfer, because I think I was asking him,
it was definitely a new direction. I had no idea it was going to go that way, but every issue was just it just made the character relatable, and it took away his loneliness, because I don't want to spoil anything, but of course he gets a new companion for his adventures. And when I heard that, I was like, they're ruining the thing I love about him.
Yeah.
But it was just so well done, and I totally applaud that run, and I do intend to read that. I do intend to reread that very soon. Very soon.
Yeah, because he was saying that like that run got so many different emotions out of him. Stan was like, he was like, basically he was like, I laughed, I cried, like it's just. It did everything right.
Yeah, man. I swear to God, the second to last issue, I almost shed a tear. It was just so compelling. It was definitely, it's definitely honestly, it's definitely got to be a top 3 comic of like our time. I really would go that far as to stress that. I really would.
So like, whether it be this one, like, have you ever had like one of those moments where you're reading a comic and you read a certain panel and it kind of gives you chills, like where you're just kind of like, oh my God, it just really resonates with you.
And that's what keeps me coming back for more. Yeah, I mean, I could list a few times that happens to me. Of course, yeah.
Okay, what are a couple that you had that were just like you, like almost like as soon as you read that panel, like it just kind of like hit you, were just like, this is fantastic. You kind of had to like marvel at the panel and just kind of like admire it, and then you kind of had to like reread it a couple times before you could move on to the next page, just because you're so immersed.
One time that happened to me was in it was Civil War II #0. I know that event has a bad rap, and I'm not saying it was a good event as a total, but when I guess it's okay to talk about this. It's been out for so long. But when War Machine, James Rhodes, died, and Thanos punched him and pretty much just tore him to bits, and killed him on the spot. And Carol Danvers, they were a thing, and she's holding him, crying, and the art by the speech by Brian Michael Bendis, it was just like her crying, holding him. That was one time when I was just flipping every page, like trying to catch my breath and trying to hold back a tear in my eye, because War Machine wasn't a character that I really had anything for, but when that happened, I had a whole new look on the character, and I was just blown away by that. Another time would definitely be in, it's still fresh, so I definitely don't want to spoil, but, the Silver Surfer run we were just talking about.
Yeah.
The second to the last issue, something happens. If you wanna jump ahead and read that, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want to know what I'm talking about, go ahead. That was an issue where I was, that was probably the...
have you ever read the? I think it was Jason Aaron's first, his first start on Thor, when with Thor the God Butcher. So what were your thoughts on the Thor God Butcher run?
The Thor, okay, let's just say this. I wasn't a Thor fan until I read it. Marvel Now, I actually took a small break about 3 months before, or I'm sorry, after Marvel Now came out. And, you know, I wasn't a Thor guy, but I decided to pick up a Thor comic because why not? I've never tried it before. And, you know, fresh start. You know, the reboot did its job. The marketing did its job, and I picked up the book. And I picked up the first 3 issues because they were out. And I was blown away by the story.
It is absolutely phenomenal.
It is like, it's like whenever people are like, oh, you know, you read comics, that's cool. I love the movies. What would you recommend? That is usually my go-to is Thor the God Butcher and God Bomb. Because to me, that is probably one of the best all-time Marvel comic stories that have ever and will ever be told.
Especially because that was actually my first Thor comic that I started reading. Because I like Thor as a character, and I'm also a big fan of Norse mythology. So I was kind of like, you know, I need to read more of Thor, because I like the fact that basically Marvel, you know, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were like, let's make a superhero who's a Norse god, and they're like, and they made it work. So, you know, I was looking, you know, I was kind of looking around like at reviews and just kind of looking at a good place to start. And I believe at the time that was when Marvel Now was still going, but the first Marvel Now, not the Marvel Now, yeah, with the exclamation point at the end. And so I looked at some of the reviews and stuff like that, and people were like, hey, this is a great place to start if you're new to the character, or if you just want to kind of be a bit more current. So I was like, all right, I'll check out the first volume. And first off, the artwork, I forget who does the artwork, but it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
But, you know, pair that with Jason Aaron's amazing, just writing style. Like, everything I've read by him has been excellent. So, and also the beauty with this story is it finds a way to kind of, because there is time travel involved, but it's not super convoluted like a lot of other time travel like movies or...
My dad, who's not very open-minded about the comics, I mean, he loves that I'm into it, and he's into it because I'm into it a little bit. You know, he goes see the movies with me and stuff, but I had him read that, and he loved it. He said, you know, like, he was generally afraid of Thor the God Butcher. I mean, like, he said the artwork just, it just captivated him.
But also another thing with Thor is the way Jason Aaron created this brand new character, which that's a hard thing to do, create a brand new character and flesh them out
these days. I mean,
and make them compelling. Because I don't know, I feel like especially with villains, you know, even sometimes in comics they're a little kind of one-dimensional. Where it's like, I'm the bad guy because for the sake of the story. But Thor, like, at first he starts out as very much kind of one-dimensional. You're like, okay, he's the bad guy. That's the guy that Thor's got to fight. But then
you get to his origin.
Oh my god!
Issue 5, I think, in it.
And then when
you feel so much sympathy.
You totally understand why he, like, his motivations. And one part of you are like, you know, if I was in your position, I might be willing to do the same thing.
And you know what? That's what I love, and that's what I tell everyone about him. I'm like, you will relate to this character in a way that you have never experienced.
But that run actually has one of my all-time favorite moments in comics. Where again, like when I was reading like a certain panel, I believe it was in the God Bomb storyline. So the second volume.
Can I guess it? Yes. Is it when one of the Thors, let's say our modern Thor, gets 2 hammers and just starts going to town?
Actually, it's when the 3 different Thors. I imagine this explanation is probably like for people who haven't read, they're going to be like, "What? This doesn't make any sense. How is this not convoluted?" Trust me, it makes sense. But basically, it's when the 3 Thors, like, they finally come together and they're confronting Thor at the planet where he set up the God Bomb. And I love when, like, Thor, he's kind of like, haha, the Thors are coming after me. Whatever, I got this. and Thor with the Odin Force. He's been trapped on Valhalla or Asgard, sorry, for centuries because Gore basically imprisoned him there. And so he's kind of reinvigorated with like the spark and with the young Thor and the Avenger Thor, so modern day Thor. So he's kind of like, you know what? I haven't used like my powers in so long. Let's see if I still got it. And he just sends a lightning bolt at Gore. And I love like the next panel. You just see him flying across the galaxy, and you just see him land on this planet or crater. There's this massive crater, and I think the part that really got me was the expression on Gore's face in the next panel, and the little sidebar that has kind of like his internal monologue, and it says like, for the first time in a millennia, Gore feels fear. That little bit of dialogue, I was kind of like, oh, beautiful.
Yeah. See, it was just like I know the scene you're talking about. I mean, I'm pretty sure Gore smashes through at least like 3 planets.
Yeah.
And just that was one of the coolest moments in the story for sure.
And especially because again, Gore has been like at the top for so long. Like he's had everything perfectly under control. So to see again,
his plan was meticulous.
Oh yeah.
So
the fact that like old Thor, and again, that was just a great scene for him to kind of be like, do I still have it? And then just bam, lightning bolt sends him across the galaxy. I was just like, this is just the perfect, again, for those of you who are listening to this and have not read Thor, the God Butcher God Bomb storyline, please
I urge you,
read it.
If you're listening, I urge you.
Yes, whether you're a Thor fan or a hardcore DC fan, just like if you want a great storyline, just again take like Marvel out of the equation. If you just want a great story to read, pick this up.
Yeah, that, you know what? That's a great way to put it, Jake. That's a great way to put it. If you're looking for a good story, and there's no continuity bullshit.
No.
Excuse my French. There's no continuity BS. It's just a story. You don't need anything prior. You don't need anything. It's there, and it's there for you to enjoy, and it's that simple.
Yeah. And if you do read the storyline and you're not impressed, please come to me and tell me what you didn't like about this, because I'd be very curious.
To know too.
Because again, like everybody that I've talked to who has read it, they're all just kind of like, that was one of the best Thor runs I've ever read. And
for sure.
Again, like Jason Aaron, it's like everything I've read by him is just absolutely phenomenal. So what are some other, some of your favorite storylines from comics, or maybe even like some of your favorite comic book movies that you've seen?
Oh, okay. You know what? While we're on comics, I'll switch to movies in 1 second. But one graphic novel that I would urge everyone to read too is one of my all-time favorites. And if you're familiar with my page as Nick181 on Comics Amino, you'll know I love the story in this character. It is Captain Marvel.
The original.
Yes, the original. There is an original for any newbies that are trying to get into comics or familiar with Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. There was an original. He was a male, and he was just like when you talk about noble and just tenacious characters, he's on the top of my list for sure. But there was one story that just made him the character that I am. And you know what? Actually, going back to our convo maybe 10 minutes ago about comics and images that make you just like shiver and bring a tear to your eye, was the whole entire book of the death of Captain Marvel. It was Marvel's first graphic novel. And
he was also one of the first major like character deaths in Marvel.
It was, and you know what? It was a character death that stuck. I mean, it's still honored today. It's the best, to me. It's the best comic death that could happen, because it makes a god less than a human being. What happens in the comic, I'm not going to spoil anything because I want you to read it if you want to get the feels. But what happens is Captain Marvel gets lung cancer, and he, there's no action in the story, so don't think you're gonna get, you're not gonna get any fighting or anything like that. It's just him going through the stages, battling this disease, and losing. And the title says it all: the death of Captain Marvel, and it is one of the most emotional stories that I've ever read. I could shed a tear right now talking about it.
And I think that was also amazing. A very bold choice for Marvel to one, again, kill off one of their main characters, but also kill him off in a very human way. Like, rather than, like, go out in, like, a glorious battle or something like that. Right. Like, this is a very real life, ordeal that people go through on a daily basis, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you know what was amazing about that story too was that, I could feel it in the story, was that Jim Starlin made that death because his father had just passed away very recently, before making that book. And so to cope with his father's tragic death by this terrible disease that consumes people, and it deteriorates so many lives every minute of the day, that was his way to cope, was to make this character die in a similar fashion that his father did. And to me, that is incredible. And I could feel resonation through the text and through the artwork. And it was, again, like you said, totally bold move by Marvel. I mean, just killing a character that has taken on Thanos, taken on all these characters and won, and then have him ultimately die a frustrating death, battling cancer. It's just that's something that got me hooked as a Marvel reader, was that oh wow, cancer. You either know somebody or you are somebody that has gone through something as small as skin cancer, or something as big as testicular cancer, or throat cancer, or so many things that are out there these days.
Yeah, and again, it's just something that makes that character in that particular storyline that much more relatable, because just about anybody has experienced that just in some form or fashion. Either they themselves have experienced it, or like a family, friend, or loved one, like they know someone who's been through that. So it, and again, like I think the fact that Jim Starlin basically wrote that as a way to cope, like you were saying, like you can really see the kind of like emotion, and you can kind of like understand what he was going through at the time as he was writing that, because again, he's basically using this as a coping method to get through the unfortunate passing of his father.
Right.
But again, that's kind of the beauty of comics, is in oddly enough, even still to this day, when we're living in this golden age of comic book media, whether it be the movies, TV shows, and just comics in general being a lot more popular, the fact that some people still kind of like brush them off as like, comic books, movies, and TV shows, and the comics themselves, there's kind of just fun popcorn entertainment. It's like, to a degree, yeah, but again, like there have been some really deep and emotional storylines in both Marvel, DC, and indie comics to where it's it really does.
I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of people do brush that off. I'm a college student, and when people come into my dorm, I got posters of Wolverine and Logan and the Avengers, and people are like, oh yeah, you read comics? Oh, that's cool, but like they're for kids, man, come on. And I'm like, I don't even battle them anymore, because just it's not that people are uneducated. It's just that they're not willing to open up their minds and give it a try. And, I wish I say this all the time, and maybe you'll agree with me, but I think with the right story, you can hook anybody on comics. I really do feel that way.
Because again, like a lot of times when I'll talk to people who are, because I have like a core group of friends, and like all of us are comic book readers and stuff like that. So we read comics and we go see the movies and all that stuff and talk about them. But some of the other people, like they know that I'm a comic book reader, and so like sometimes they'll ask me questions about like some of the movies, or they'll kind of be like, so what's one of your favorite comic books? And it's usually like, okay, so here's one of my favorite Marvel stories, here's one of my favorite DC stories, and then I'm like, But honestly, just in my opinion, like if you really wanted like some of the best storytelling in comics, the indie stuff is where it's at. Obviously, like Marvel and DC have their exceptions, like you know the death of Captain Marvel, like you were saying, Thor the God Butcher, Kingdom Come, one of my favorite DC comics. But
Kingdom Come, yep.
Yes, beautiful. But then I'll kind of explain to him like what makes certain storylines, again, whether it be whatever company. And I'm like, this is why this is such a great comic to read. And again, even if you're not a comic reader, this is a good place to start and just appreciate good storytelling because
yes, I agree with you.
I think the thing that irks me the most is, again, when people just kind of brush them off and they're just like, comic book stuff, they're fine and dandy, but not my thing. But again, it's like, definitely like certain comics and, comic book TV shows or movies, they are just more kind of popcorn entertainment, which is, again, is totally fine. But take, for example, a movie like Logan. That movie transcends the comic book genre. That is just, like, again, take, the fact that it's an X-Men or a comic book movie out of the equation. That is just a great movie, and it just so happens that, the lead character is Wolverine. Or the same thing with, like, Dark Knight.
Right.
That's what made Dark Knight such a great movie is you're not watching it and being like, oh, man, this is a really good Batman movie. You're like, this is a really good movie, and Batman just happens to be, like, the lead actor.
Right. People get caught up in the Joker. And, it's funny you say that about Logan because today I was doing my grandmother's Netflix queue. She loves Netflix. And so I put Logan on there. And I told her, this is a Marvel movie, and she said, "Oh, she gave me the old person."
I'm not big into the comic books, and you kids are into. It's like, well,
yeah. And I said, "No, Grandma, give it a try. Give it it's a spectacular movie." And I'm curious. I'll let you know what she says about that. But it's just it goes to show that, of course, I wouldn't put Spider-Man: Homecoming on her Netflix queue, but Logan is that that outlier that you can just it's just different. It's so different, and that's what's beautiful about it.
Because again, like just from when I've watched it and rewatched it, there are times where I almost forget that it is a movie about Wolverine, just because.
That's a great way to put it.
Because one, just it's one of the best performances I've seen by Hugh Jackman, and especially Patrick Stewart, who. I would love it if he got nominated or even won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Not going to happen, unfortunately, because again, like the Academy, they're still under that whole thing of like, comic book movies, they're not real movies.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it's kind of like, look, people, I get where you're coming from, but again,
I do too. Right.
Look at movies like again. Logan, Wonder Woman, Captain America, Winter Soldier, which in my opinion is the best Marvel movie because...
Jake, you're absolutely right. You're speaking the truth here.
It's another one of those movies where, again, take Captain America out of the equation. Like, you can change the name of the characters, and it's still a great movie. Like, that's all Winter Soldier or Dark Knight and Logan was. They're basically just really good movies with, and basically they just kind of layered them with like, oh, by the way, this character is Wolverine. That's Professor Xavier. That's Captain America, and I think that's the key to making continue to make successful and really good, compelling movies or TV shows or just even comics themselves with these characters. Is again, by all means, kind of do like some of the kind of typical tropes where it's like good versus evil or whatever, but ultimately, I think. You kind of have to change things up and be like, okay, we've all seen the typical, good guy versus bad guy, but let's go deeper. What's going through this character's mind? Like, what makes them tick? And it may be controversial. That's what I liked about Man of Steel. Man of Steel is more of a character piece, unlike Superman. Again, basically a god trying to be human.
And find his way, and finding your way is something everyone goes through at one point or another.
Yeah, and that's what made it so relatable. And
the character development was outstanding.
So again, when people kind of like criticize the movie, it's like, he's all mopey. It's like, sure, but again, like it makes sense because he is trying to figure out like, what do I do and like what is my place in this world? So come at me, haters, but I love Man of Steel, and I think it's one of the best, or one of the better superhero movies in general in the most recent years.
Yeah, you know what, Jake? After rewatching it, the first time I saw it, I was kind of on the hate train with it. But after the second time, I just kind of watched it for what it was. And you're right, it was just a man or not even a man, an alien trying to find his way in a world where he is just a god, and the struggle of being someone that's like he has everything he needs. He's handsome, he's smart, he's just he's the physical, like, just perfect human being that can do whatever he wants, yet he's held back by so much of the unknown and how things work. And to me, that was just that was entirely relatable. And as someone that I'm trying to find my way, in college, I'm trying to find my way, working, I'm trying to find just little things like that. But you see yourself in the character, even though you're so different. And that, to me, is why Zack Snyder aced that movie.
Yeah. And again, like, it was a bold choice, because again, like, Superman's always been the Boy Scout, which again is totally fine. That's kind of, again, that's just synonymous with the character. But I feel like that was the right move to take in this modern day and age, where we've seen the Boy Scout Superman movie. That's the Christopher Reeve Superman, which again, those movies are great, or at least the first two. And Christopher Reeve, I think, was the best Clark Kent / Superman, because they are more or less two different roles. However, I think Man of Steel was the great kind of modern interpretation of, well, what would this character actually be like in real life in the modern times? And I do imagine, realistically, you would be very conflicted if you had all this power, but you're like, okay, do I let the world know that I have all this power and then either get ostracized because of that, and then, again, on the other hand, there are some people who basically, again, see me as a god. I don't want that kind of attention. I don't want people to think of me as something more than what I am. Or do I try to fit in and be more human and also, at the same time, kind of deny my true heritage as a Kryptonian? So, yeah, if I was in that same position, I'd be very conflicted, and it would be hard to find a good balance between. It's like, okay, I'm half, I'm more or less half Kryptonian, half human. Which one do I embrace more, or do I try to find a good balance between the two? So, again,
that's what that movie's all about, and that's what makes the movie so compelling.
Yeah, and again, people complain about, like, all the damage that was caused in the fight with him and Zod, but again, it's like, this is his first time as a superhero, like, fighting someone with superpowers, so it's like, yeah, obviously he's going to try to control the collateral damage, but when you're fighting another Kryptonian, it's like, how do you do that? You can't just, tell Zod, be like, all right, slap him on the wrist and be like, stop it, you silly goose, now let's go take this to, like, some barren wasteland. He's going to be like, yeah, no, I've got the upper hand in this populated area, so no, we're going to get out right here, right now.
Right.
So, again, maybe controversial. Feel free to, disagree with me here, people, but again, that's my opinion. And that's,
everyone has their own opinions. Yeah, right.
But again, I just want to shed a different perspective on Man of Steel and why, again, I think it's a great film. Because of, again, they decided to go in a bold new direction and change things up a bit.
Right. Does he have another movie in his contract? I think he does. I think he has one more, right?
Yeah, I think Zack Snyder is supposed to do one more, but I don't know whether that's still going to happen or not. Because it seems like Warner Brothers are kind of like, hey, Zack Snyder, you did good, but we're gonna move forward. But that's a whole other discussion that I imagine could easily last like an hour or more, just talking about that whole everything going on at Warner Brothers.
Yeah, Jake, I'll hit that with you next time.
We'll hit
that next time. That's a good one.
I think that's something that, like, we could bring in a lot of people in the community about, and probably that would probably last like 5 hours. Just so many people going back and forth, being like, "Here's what's good about the DCU. Here's what's bad. Here's what I hate. Here's what I like." So we'll leave that for another time.
Yes.
But moving forward, I guess like what are some of your again favorite comic book movies to where again like a Logan, where you're like, this is not just a good comic book movie accurate to the comics, like this is just a fantastic movie just in general.
You know what was for me? I mean, there's so many. I'm a huge MCU guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. Every time I talk to someone about this, I'll tell you. But the MCU to me means more than just a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a time for my mother, my father, and my brother. We all get together as a family to watch every single Marvel movie. Since 2008,
cool.
when Iron Man 1 came out,
Mm-hmm.
we have a little tradition where my mom and dad take off work, my brother and I get taken out of school early, and we go see the movie as a family.
That's awesome.
And oh man, it's just since Iron Man 1, we've held true to to that. Even with my brother in Rhode Island, he's
Mm-hmm.
in college in Rhode Island. I'm on the other side of the state in Massachusetts at my school, UMass Amherst, and we still got together for Thor Ragnarok, and we made it happen, and we're gonna do the same thing for Black Panther and Infinity War, and
Mm-hmm.
every single time a Marvel movies come out, we just always stop what we're doing and get together at the theater and sit down and enjoy the movie together, and it's awesome.
I wish I could do that with my family, but it's like really hard for us to all get together for movies. Unfortunately, although because thankfully my whole family are like a whole bunch of nerds. So like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like when Deadpool came out, like my dad took my mom to see it for Valentine's Day. And
your dad's a killer.
Yeah, so like that's like one of their favorites, comic book movies, and same thing with Logan, because my parents are more kind of your average moviegoer. Like they like to see movies and stuff like that, and they'll read comics every now and then, but mostly just like if me or one of my siblings are like, hey, Mom, Dad, you gotta read this comic. Like again with movies like Logan and Deadpool, they're like, yeah, this movie's really good because it's not your typical comic book movie.
Right.
Although I do tend to have like an ongoing debate with my dad about Batman versus Superman, because we're on the same page with Man of Steel. Both of us love Man of Steel, but Batman versus Superman, on the other hand, I was not a fan of. My dad loved. He was like, they bring up a lot of good concepts and themes, and I'm like, no, I agree with you there, just poor execution. And then it's just this ongoing debate that we have where we agree to disagree. Thankfully, like we're very civil about it, but it's still, he'll kind of be like, I don't know what you didn't like about it. I'm like, I've already told you this. This is what I don't like about it. So it's still interesting, though, anytime, like, we watch one of the DC movies, because, he'll kind of be like, yeah, it was really good. So far I've liked all the DC movies. And I'm like, that's fine, but they're kind of like, one good, one bad, one good, one bad, when they're a little uneven for me personally. But yeah, it is nice to be able to bond with my family with over some of the comic book movies and stuff like that.
That's the cool thing about it. But going back to your question, I would have to say my all-time favorite comic book movie has to, and this is a movie I could literally start right now and I would finish it. And this could be, this is definitely a movie. I have a long flight coming up in a few days, and this is definitely something I'll be watching on the plane. Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yes.
It's not a superhero movie like you said. To me, it's a political thriller.
Yeah.
It's a spy thriller, and that is just it's the best superhero movie in my opinion. I
don't know if I could say what definitively is like my favorite comic book movie or superhero movie, but I do think that would definitely be in the running, because again, like we were saying, is it's not just a good comic book movie. Like again, you can take Captain America out of the equation. That still works as a perfectly fine movie. But that's what I like about the Russo brothers, which they came from comedy. They'd never done a movie before. And to go from writing from Community, but them as comic book readers, and also just, I think, them understanding, like, okay, we can't just do the typical superhero movie where it's like, good guy versus bad guy. It's like, we got to change things up. And to also do a political kind of, thriller within the MCU, again, I thought that was a bold move.
You know what? Like, I took my great aunt to see it. My great aunt, she's like 90, and I took her to see it just because, what the hell? My family and I were together, and we had her, and we were like, yeah, let's see it. She walked out saying, was Hydra the bad guy? And that's when I was like, this movie was well done.
Yeah.
This movie was Hydra the bad guy? That is the question that makes this movie the political thriller.
Yeah.
That it is.
And again, just a good movie in general that, again, it has a thought-provoking theme or message where, again, you leave the theater and you're like, huh. So not only was I entertained, not only was, again, the acting and script really good, but again, like, after you leave the theater, especially, like, when you see it with people, whether it be friends or family, then you're like, okay, what did you think about the movie? Again, was Hydra the bad guy? And you're like, well, yes, but also kind of no. And then you have, like, this really intricate discussion, and, again, that's to me is like the perfect sign of a good movie, to where you not only leave the theater.
That's exactly when it clicked. And you know, at first I didn't even give her the benefit of the doubt. I was like, what do you mean? Was Hydra the bad guy? He didn't fight Hydra. Like Hydra. You know, what are you talking about? And she was like, you know, Hydra said this, and I kind of thought they were the good guys, and Hydra was doing this. And you know, I wasn't sure if they were good or bad. And when Captain America said this, and she was kind of just giving me supporting evidence of why, and then I started putting it together. I was like, oh my God, Great Aunt Carol, you are right. You are right.
It's like, and also thank you for not taking this movie at face value. It's like, it's another one of those comic book pictures. It's like,
right, yeah. She's great. And when I took her to see that, I was like, okay, you know what? You're coming with me to the next one. But to me, that movie, I mean, the fight sequences, you know, everything to me, and I'm so excited for the Russo brothers to be, directing, you know, the biggest comic book movie of my career, you know, as an enthusiast, is you know, Infinity War. I mean, they're going to be tackling that beast, and you know, I really think it'll live up to the hype and be the Star Wars of our time. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait for them to, kill it.
Like, it's... Because, initially, it was one thing to, like, take on Winter Soldier, and then, again, they step it up with Civil War, which I'd say is just as good. I prefer Winter Soldier a little bit more. But again, Civil War, again, it's still a great movie. The fact that, again, they tackle difficult, like, questions and stuff like that, and the fact that they balanced all that many characters, like, every character had their moment, like, no one really outshined the other, and hopefully they'll be able to do that with Infinity War, but I imagine that's a harder task, because they literally have everybody in this movie, so the fact that they're going to have to, one, again, write a compelling, interesting story, and then also give every character, like, just enough screen time, so that way it's like, where was, Ant-Man during this whole thing? He was barely even there. So I think it's in good hands, and again, I obviously I hope that Infinity War lives up to the expectations and the hype, especially with Thanos. Because I'll say though, Marvel have been stepping it up with their villains, like the last three, Vulture, Hela, and Ego. I thought were some of the better.
Yeah, you're
Marvel
right.
villains.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Marvel has been, they're listening. The thing that I love about Marvel that DC I wish did more of is that Marvel listens to its fan base. When they say, oh yeah, that War Machine guy in Iron Man 2, yeah, we want to see more of him. And they say, okay, all right, and then they work them into Age of Ultron, and they work them into here, and they work them into there, because they hear, oh yeah, we want to see more. Okay, here you go.
And I also like the fact that, like, not only Kevin Feige, but a lot of the directors and writers they bring onto these movies, they're comic book readers and fans too, so it's like, I imagine, because again, like the Russo brothers, and I loved, because I saw an interview with them, and, they were like, so what made you decide to, like, how did you approach Captain America? And, the Russo brothers were like, well, as kids, when we were reading comics, like, we always kind of thought Captain America was kind of lame.
Yeah, he was kind of square. I heard that interview as well.
And that's kind of how I've seen Captain America. Like, not that I've disliked the character, but he's just never really appealed to me as much as, like, Thor, Punisher, and some of these other characters. And they're like, so we wanted to make him not lame, and sure enough, Winter Soldier, I was just like, whoa, this just blew my mind.
Same, absolutely. It was, and that's what they did, and it's just they just made him not lame. It's as simple as that. Captain America, to me, until I saw that movie, I was like, yeah, Captain America, you know what you're gonna get when you open his comic. But that movie just, that was awesome. It was just, I can't speak highly enough about it. In my opinion, 9.5 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10.
Or even, like James Gunn, like the fact that he was able to make Guardians of the Galaxy work as a movie, it's kind of like, like pretty much by that point, like Marvel had proved it's like, we can make a movie about literally anyone we want, and people will go see it. And the fact that they had Ego the Living Planet and Guardians
Right.
Volume 2, which, granted, is not my favorite Marvel movie. I was actually a little disappointed with that movie, but still, the fact that, like, because when I first heard rumors that they were, possibly going to have Ego, my first thought was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Like, who's going to suspend their disbelief for a talking planet? And then I was like, well, never mind. No, I want him to go weird and trippy. And I was also like, also the fact that Guardians Volume 1 worked, the fact that, people fell in love with a talking tree that says all of 4 words and an anthropomorphic raccoon. General audiences, non-comic book readers, saw Guardians of the Galaxy, were like, yep, I dig it. I love this movie. So it's like, yeah, give us the weird, crazy, like, trippy 60s stuff. Like, just go as deep into
Look at Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not inspired by Guardians and the 70s.
Yeah, that movie to me felt like a 1980s heavy metal album come to life, which was fantastic for me because I'm a huge metalhead. And also using Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song so perfectly.
Yes. Oh, man, when that went off, I was like, oh, my, this is like, I could rewatch this 3-second just image for like eternity. You know what I mean?
That was one of those scenes where not just a moviegoer, not just a comic book fan, not just a music fan, but like everything. It was this perfect symphony of everything done right in one scene. Where as I was sitting there in the theater, I'm like, this might be one of my favorite scenes in a comic book movie, just because again the whole symphony of everything coming together, and again it was very bright and vibrant and colorful. And again, Thor's one of my favorite comic book characters or Marvel characters. So
there you go.
And again, that song fits perfectly in that movie. So that was just one of those scenes where I was just kind of like, I'm in heaven right now. Not because again,
me too, Jake.
I was like, music fan, I'm in heaven. Comic book fan, I'm there. And movie fan, like you got me. So. But since we're going on about an hour, anything else you want to like mention or anything like that before we start wrapping this up?
Yeah, one thing I just want to hit. There's a couple things. The first one I definitely want to hit is that if there are any any new faces on Comics Amino, anybody that's not really familiar with the app, they're trying to find their way. I just established a new group on the app. It's a group designed for new users who are new to the app, trying to find their way, trying to hone any writing or blogging skills. The group is called Amino Rising. If you'd like to know more, hit me up with a PM. I just started this group, and we're looking for people that want to become great writers, and we're here to help you. I got 3 really great minds working on this this group. And it's a really great way for you to, as a new user, start networking, making new friends. Getting help from users that are new like you, to hone in your writing skills and become a big name. And you guys are the future of the app. That's why I started this group, was to hopefully even if it helps one person and that one person is you, it's totally worth it. And I would really urge any new user to take advantage of this opportunity and jump on the new app. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. And if you're a low level, the level is something. I'm sure you can agree with me on this, Jake. Is something that we feel very negatively about on the app because level. It's not a game. You know what I mean? It's a way for us to. It's a means of communication, this app. That's how I see it.
Because I know, like, when I first joined the app, of course, granted, this was shortly after the app launched, so about 2 years ago. Like, as a new user, that was before the whole leveling system and stuff like that. Now, granted, there have been a lot of positive changes that I like, and I'm like, okay, this makes it easier. But, so, like, when I first joined, I was actually a little overwhelmed because there's so many, great bloggers and groups and stuff like that, and so... when I first started writing blogs and stuff like that, they were not very good. Just because, I wasn't really, I've never really been that good of a writer, and, it's also, there is kind of an art form to writing proper blogs or articles of any kind, just because you have to articulate it well, grammar and spelling, which, that's more of my thing. Like, I'm kind of, I try to always spell check and make sure my grammar and punctuation is always, correct, and... So yeah, my first few blogs, I imagine for the first couple months, were very short and just kind of not very detailed, just kind of like, oh, I like this because it's cool. Here you go, enjoy.
Yep, likewise. Yeah.
But then after a while, I started reading other people's blogs, especially like some of the some of the like very active and avid bloggers, where again they're usually posting things on a regular basis. I would read through their blogs, be like, okay, how do they structure their blogs? How do they break it down? And
Right.
like if they're
That's what
reviewing
it's all
something,
about.
yeah. So
And that's what this group is designed to do. It's designed to help you skip that learning curve as much as possible. And I'm someone that's somewhat seasoned on the app. I've found my way. I'm in the foundation of the app as much as I try to be, and so are the people that are co-running the group with me, and we are here just to help you structure your way as much as possible, and it's a great way for you to network and make friends and learn how to tackle Comics Amino.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't have to join, but I would consider it. And if you'd like to know more, again, please PM me, and I'd be happy to discuss with you anything that you'd like to know further. So
yeah, it's really
there's
nothing.
my little spiel about Amino Rising. I'm looking for new people. I mean, the app is literally not even. I'm sorry, the group is not even 5 hours old. So we're looking, and that's all I got to say about that. Thank you for that, Jake.
Yeah, no problem. And thankfully, we've had a pretty big influx of new users who are actually doing pretty good with being active. And again, a lot of them are showing a lot of promise. Where maybe like their first couple blogs, not that they've been bad, but again, they haven't quite found their footing yet. On like
that's what it's all about, Jake. You know what? I always say this. It's not about how good you are now. It's about how good you're going to be. If you want to put in the effort and become a great blogger and a great writer. It starts with the learning curve.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are now. What matters is who you're going to be and who you want to be. And if you have the effort and the drive, I mean, you can do anything. Yeah. You can do anything.
So again, like a lot of people, they're always saying that they want to apply to be curators, and they're like, I'll never get it. It's like, well, hold on. When I first joined the community, never did I think I would be a curator, and honestly, I didn't have much of because one, I was just kind of like, I'm not good enough to be a curator, like, but also I just most of it is just I was like, I'll never be one of those. I'm not good enough. But then of course everyone was super supportive, and thankfully the curator team, Miss America, like invited me on board, and I was just like, what? Seriously?
Right.
And I was actually very apprehensive at first, just because I'm like, I'll do it, but I might screw up really bad. But thankfully, I don't think I have. Otherwise, I think
Jake, you're awesome. You're awesome.
Thank you. And again, thanks to the community for being super supportive. But again, it just goes to show that, like, whether you're a brand new member who just joined yesterday or today, or you've been on here for like a year or two, and again, if that's something you want to be, again, like there's always great opportunities. It's just a matter of when it happens, because I considered applying a couple times beforehand, but again I never did, just because I'm like, I'll let better people be the curators.
Yeah, you know what, I felt the same way.
But so far I think we've had one of the best curator teams we've had in a long time, and again, all of us we get along really well, and
it's fun. We're a fun little group, and we only want the best for the app.
And admittedly, there are some times where I wish we could like screen shot some of the conversations we've had in the curator chat, because they've been like so much fun that I'm like, see, people, we're not these power hungry overlords. We're normal people.
You know what, Jake? I'm gonna stop you right there, because that's kind of something that I wanted to dive into, especially with a recent event. Okay. If you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Me cutting you off there. But recently, I mean, we had the Comics Amino Awards, which if there's any new people listening, any new users, basically once a year, around Christmas time. It is Christmas time, right, Jake?
Yeah.
Around that. We there's a page brought out by Curator, where we let every user of Comics Amino share their voice and their opinion on who should win a category and who should be nominated for a category of best best group, best writer, best cosplay, best this, best that, best this, and I was nominated for. People nominated me for best blog, and when I saw that, I was like, "Wow, that is that's awesome!" Like it just makes you feel, it makes you feel good, and it makes you feel like the hard work is paying. You know what I mean, Jake? I'm pretty sure I saw your name on there. I know I nominated you for some stuff. But,
thank you. I was legitimately surprised when I saw my name. I forget honestly, I don't remember what I was nominated for, but I just remember I was like, "What? I was nominated? What have I done that was good enough?"
I was like, really? I was nominated for best blog, and I was like, really? Yeah, that's really. Like, I don't know. It just rung in my head. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. And people. I reached out to a few people that I've had a connection to on Comics Amino, whether it be little or small, and I reached out to them. Saying, hey, I was nominated. I would love to. I would love to win. If you read my blog and you enjoyed, I would appreciate a vote. And I reached out to old users and new users alike. And there was a lot of people that went on and voted for my blog. But something that occurred that I had no intentions of this happening, and but a lot of people thought was that as a new curator, I was trying to push votes in my favor, and I would just like the time to clear this up. That I had in no way was I trying to cheat, in no way was I trying to push votes in my favor at all. In no way did I was accused of making fake accounts. I was accused of trying to swap vote for votes and doing stuff like that, and in no way did I want to have people thinking that I'm a cheater. In no way do I want people to think that I'm a crooked curator. In no way do I want people to think that I'm someone that tries to use the quote unquote power of a curator to benefit myself. My intentions as a curator are always to put the community first. My intentions as a curator are always to put everyone before myself.
Yeah, that's.
Of course, I wanted to win. Go ahead, Jake. I didn't.
It's just that. Again, that's what we curators do. Because I know when one of the reasons why I wanted to be a curator or accept the position is because I know that some people kind of they're under that impression that we're just. We abuse our powers and all that stuff, and I imagine that just comes with the territory. If you're in any form of authority of any kind, there's always going to be people who are
that was my exact next. Yeah, that was my exact next sentence. People see us curators as just the highest authority on Comics Amino, which to some extent is correct. I mean, we do try to make the app better, and some people have a different vision for the app than us, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But we as a whole and as a team, try to operate the app the best way possible, the most efficient way, the most fair way. And so I just really want people to know that we don't have as much power as you think we do. We're users just like you. We're really nothing special.
No.
We're really not. I mean, we're just as much of a user as you are, and our intention is never ever to abuse our power.
No.
And it's never to benefit ourselves before the community. So I really just want to make that clear, and I would like to take the time to apologize to anyone who thinks that I was.
Sorry about that, people. Again, like minor technical difficulties, but as you were saying, Nick, before we start wrapping this up.
Yeah, I'll take this to wrap it up because I definitely don't want to repeat myself on here, and I know we've been going on for a while, but I just want to reiterate one more time that a lot of people, because of me reaching out asking for a vote, were thinking that curators were not fair. And I see the comments on other curators' posts now saying, don't let curators get in the way of this. Don't let curators sway that. I really Jake and I would like to urge you guys just to get you to understand that we in no way, shape, or form want to do anything like that, and we never will. You have my word on that I personally will never do anything like that. And you guys really should trust us. We really haven't given you much of a reason not to trust us, and the trust is what makes the app run smoothly. And without trust, the community is definitely hurt by that. So I would really like you guys to just understand that we're in your best interest. We have your best interests in mind.
Yeah. And thankfully, most of the community, they're very understanding that we're not trying to abuse their powers or anything like that. We're very much trying to do our best and work with you all as well on helping everything run smoothly. And thankfully, again, like most people, users will come to us if there's a problem. If there's like a problematic user or something like that, they'll let us know, and again, we take care of it so that way again, everything's running smoothly, and the community is as safe and as pleasant as it can be for everybody.
That's right.
So, again, thanks to everybody who has been very positive and supportive of us, the curators, new and old. We really appreciate that, because again, it helps us, now that we're doing our jobs, and make us feel confident that we're doing our jobs as curators.
Right. That's right. Very well put. So that's pretty much all I have to say, Jake. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover on my end.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure to have you on here, and just getting to chat with you. Because I know, again, you've been new to the Curator team, so I haven't really had a whole lot of time to, chat with you and some of the other newer users, like one-on-one. But it's been a pleasure. Again,
Jake,
thanks for coming on.
You're a cool guy.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you having me on here. You're a great host, and
thank you.
I'm a big fan of listening in whenever I see some new content on your end, and I hope to be on here again one day. I really do.
Definitely. Again, we're still trying to work it out to where we can do like a full Curator podcast, as many of us as possible. Realistically, as much as I would love to have all of us together, like all of us curators together in one podcast, I think that's very difficult, just because, again, several of us live in different countries, time zones, and again, just schedules with, like, even if we could find a time, in all the different time zones, it's still, certain people like work this time of day or have school this time of day and all that stuff. So, again, apologies for not being like as active here on the YouTube channel as we would like, but we definitely are stepping it up. Again, thanks to Crocblock and Cape Crusader for again, really helping out with doing Crocblock is in charge of like the Amino podcast, and then Cape Crusader helped organize the whole.
Yeah, Cape Crusader's awesome too. Both really great. Great people on this, and
again, helping organize everything, and thankfully, everybody's agreeing to come on and also submit like other users that would like to see on here. So hopefully, now that I think we have a pretty good system going right now, so I think we'll definitely be able to do weekly to bi-weekly uploads here on the channel, which again, we really appreciate you all being super supportive of, commenting and liking. Because again, like the whole point we wanted to create this channel is that way it's a bit more interactive for you all. You can check out our content on here, give us feedback, and again bring you all on board as well for some of the podcasts or comic conversations, and we'll probably start coming up with more content for you all. And again, you're more than welcome to submit ideas for stuff you'd like to see on here, whether it be comic reviews or I don't know, just anything. Feel free to submit that in the comment section, and we'll take note of it and try and implement it as soon as we can. And thanks for listening in. And before I wrap this up, you can check out if you're not following Nick, by the way, go ahead and do that. Fantastic gent here, and with solid content. And you can always follow me here on Comics Amino. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at irishmanjake, same username. It's just easier for me to remember everything, and easier for everybody to follow me as well. So you can check me out on Twitter, and check out my own my personal YouTube channel, Pacey Pill Productions, where I do movie reviews. Host my main podcast where I talk about movies, music, comics, a little bit of everything. And you can also check out my other podcast, Shogun's Gateway to Anime, which is all about anime. And that wraps this up, so hopefully you all have enjoyed, and until next time, everyone, cheers.